last night than this morning than you were last night? Any more insights in the last 10 hours?
Yeah, not really. I don't think so. I mean, I didn't get a chance to watch it yet. I will at some point. But no, I don't have too much to add there. Again, I think that just kind of a little bit of an up and down performance, way up for a lot of the game, way down for a lot of the game, and not enough extended minutes of just kind of average, instead of the way down moments. That's about it.
Pascal and Fred were both kind of looking at a few days after the season ends in different perspectives. Pascal was saying that he kind of wants to take some time to clear his mind, and Fred was saying he kind of wants to stew in it a little bit. How do you as a coach kind of approach the days after a season, especially at this point in the season?
Well, I think, obviously the first thing is I'm going to meet with all the players today, right? So that's where it starts. I mean, we use the word evaluate a lot, right? And that's going to be starting today with the guys. And I think, each one of them has their own story that we'll go back through and talk about, and then just start planning for the next step. And like you already said, there's two different guys. With those two guys, there'll be some other different ideas. I'm sure there's going to be some guys that are going to need physically and mentally a little break. And then there'll be some other guys that'll probably be really hungry to get in the gym and start getting ready to go, and improving themselves. And so that's where it starts, each individual meeting.
The core this year was so similar, and then you bring Yak to add a different element. Why do you think it didn't click in the same way that it clicked last year?
Well, I think that, first of all, I think last year it certainly clicked maybe at a level beyond what we were expecting, maybe. I mean, it was super high level play, really good connectivity on the defensive end, really especially, from about December 1 on, and then really good from, later on, February 1 on, right? Think that this year we got a little bit disconnected at times, especially defensively, right? I think that talked about that. It just like there was that stretch of games where just like take one aspect of it, take defensive transition. It just really got disconnected, and so we had to really work hard to get that kind of back connected again. And I think the guys did a good job of that. Like you mentioned this before, but there was a stretch there, January, February, etc. That it was the workload was heavy. Practices were hard. Film sessions were long. Like we were really, really grinding to get those guys back together, and I think we did that a lot of times there late in the season, just not quite enough.
If you talk about players evaluating themselves and what they have to do, how do you evaluate yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. I mean, I know you guys, we talk about this every year at this time, about what am I going to do in the off season to get better, and it's a really important time always as a coach. I mean, in the 30 plus years that I've done this, I've always just had a goal of trying to improve each year, and then when that year's done, to sit back and look at it and figure out, here's what we really liked, let's keep that, here's what we need to improve on or not do, and let's either clean some of that up or polish it and move it over to this side of the ledger, right? And I think that's not going to be any different this year.
You talked in Philadelphia about needing some time. 3 years is a long time
Yep.
for an organization. Have you thought more about that, or how long do you think that process might take you?
Well, I think again that is certainly part of the evaluation of everything. Listen, I think that that when you ask me what my job is here, my job is to make the best decisions for this organization. I've always believed that from day one, and I still believe that 10 years later, that when you sit back and look at it, you know, all the decisions you make have to be for what's best for the organization, right? And I think that we got a front office or a president in Masai who passionately wants to win. And we got a head coach who passionately wants to win, right? That's why we've always been on the same page and have a great level of communication. Like, our goals are to win here, and that takes some evaluation on all fronts. That's all. Yep.
When it comes to the defensive schemes that you guys ran last year and kind of trying to master the turnover battle,
Yep.
possession battle, there were a couple teams that tried to emulate both the possession battle and some of the things that you guys did defensively. Is it possible that some of what worked last year became less of an advantage this year because of that?
Well, I think that maybe not just the defensive schemes, but maybe in totality a little more. I think that a couple things changed, but one thing that really changed, I think, throughout the league was everybody going to the offensive glass a lot more. Right, like we were kind of unique and just saying we're just gonna go and get on the glass like crazy and make offensive rebounding a big priority. And I think almost all the league does that now, just like a year later. So that's one thing that I think changed. And I think that we did some things again at even a higher level this year than we did a year ago, when we thought that was our style, and that's what we were trying to play, that best suited our team. And then there were some areas that we didn't do well enough, right? And I mentioned one. I think it was there was a stretch of defensive transition that was just not letting us even get into those schemes, right? You got to get your defense set up, and there was a stretch of that 10 or 15 game stretch in the middle of the season, and go from there.
You said you're going to have meetings with players today.
Yep.
I'm wondering about Delano specifically.
Mhm.
What was it about his game that maybe didn't get him into the rotation very much this season? What is your message to him for this summer in terms of?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Delano is not alone in this category of there's and it's almost already mentioned this, like there's some great flashes of really, really good play, right? And then there's some stretches of some ups and downs. The downs got to be a little more leveled out. Right, and I think again, it's can you come down and make a play and score, and can you come down and make a shot, and then not have a couple turnovers back to back? Like it can't be so extreme. I think, and we need some of that, but we need some of that just to be solid and get us in the offense, and not to make something happen, good or bad, every time you have the ball, right? And I think he's showing, like his shooting's coming along. He certainly has a pretty good feel on defense and help side defense and things like that. He's got some vision. He does have some ability to get to the rim some, but that's it. It's. I think you sum that up with just more consistency is probably the word. Yeah, and he's not alone there though, right?
You guys had a bunch of free agents. You guys had guys who were constantly talked about in trade conversations, at least public or media-wise, and guys with contract incentives and stuff. How do you think those things played a role in this season?
Well, I think that I think you can't say it's no factor, right? I think that each year that ticks over with the calendar, things change for a lot of people personally, right? But you also understand that it's probably going to be that way. There's hardly a rare year when, we have no free agents and there's no trade speculation and there's no whatever. Like, it's part of the deal or the process you have to deal with, right? It doesn't make it easy when you're going through some of it, right? And certainly doesn't make it easy, I think, personally for some of those guys some of them are pretty young and wondering where they're headed, right? But, you know, you got to deal with it.
Your name came up toward the end of the season, Adrian's name came up. Do you think conversations around the coaching staff impacted sort of the last couple games?
Well, I don't think so. I think that happened last year. I think it happens a lot, right? I think, you know, from my standpoint, I think, well, let's deal with the assistants first of all, that you can get them up here to talk if you want them to talk about their own, but that's happened almost every year, right, for 10 years, that some assistants getting named for a job. So I think, again, that's part of the territory. And as from my standpoint, like the speculation of whether I was going to be back or not that started, I have no idea where that comes from, right, or what I was supposed to do about that, right? And what I thought was I needed to try to get the team or any of the players or anybody focused back on the job at hand, right? And try to not have to answer that question every game. You know, started coming one after another, and I was trying to put it to bed, and so we could focus on the season. Again, it's part of it, right? I mean, I think it's part of it. There's lots of teams that go through that, and you got to handle it the way you best see fit, and that's what I tried to do.
Do you think that backfired?
No.
Because, I mean, you kind of opened the door to all the questions.
I did, or you guys did?
On Friday in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
when you brought it up like that, it opened the door to a lot of this stuff. I'm just wondering, if, like, do you regret that?
Not at all. I mean, I think the door got opened weeks before, right?
Good. Because anyone, like, I don't think anyone here asked you specifically about your future, and,
Well, was it being reported or not being reported?
I mean,
My future.
there was one story, as far as I know. And, you know, I don't know if that subject had ever been raised prior to that, and I think that instance in Philly, I think it was a pretty general question, like, I know the person who asked it, I asked them about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think the way you answered it was, I don't know if confusing is the right word, but it kind of allowed some interpretations in terms of, you know, you've been here for a long time, there's been a lot to reflect about your relationship with the front office, like, you know, it would have been.
Well, my stance on my relationship with the front office is what I just said earlier. Like, Masai really wants to win. I really want to win. We're driving to try to figure out how to get back to a championship level, right? I think, again, our communication is open and honest with each other. I think that's all that I can say there. Like, I, again, don't have a whole lot of uncomfortable days working here with him, right? Even though when, you know, we all want better results. He wants them, I want them, especially from this season. That's it, yeah.
I mean, just to follow this, are you as convinced that this is an environment you can reach your goals as a head coach?
Listen, I love it here, right? I love it here, and we've built a really strong culture, right? We've got, again, that's what he's doing, Bobby's doing, that's what I'm doing. We got to all evaluate how we can get that culture back to where we need it and get back to, you know, being a playoff team first and foremost, and then getting to a level of winning it all. That's what we want to do. That's what we get up and go to work for the last 10 years, both him and I, for 10 years.
Dave, throughout your career, you've obviously coached in a number of different places in the world, different number of organizations. Was the kind of setup that you've had here over the past 10 years, was that kind of what you were always striving for an organization where you had some longevity?
Well, I think that, yeah, you know, I took a unconventional route, obviously, to get here, right? And I already said this already, but I'll say it again. I was always just trying to improve at my craft and do better at my job. And that led me to a lot of short stints in a lot of places. And I went to a couple places where I thought that would help me do that, right? So, but, you know, from looking at this, you know, what do you want to do? Well, what we want to do is we want to build a culture. We want to go out there and play really hard. We want our players to get better. We want our players to have success. We want our organization to have success. And I think, you know, that's what we strive for.
With a season like this, where it doesn't go according to plan and there is some disappointment throughout, have you gotten the sense over the last few weeks and months that everybody in the organization is taking a level of accountability for their part in what's gone wrong, from players to coaches to management?
I think so, yeah. I do. I think that, again, is you're going to evaluate every facet of what makes us successful, right? And we always got to, again, there's a lot of things we do well. We got to figure out the things that we didn't do so well in every department and do them better.
Nick, talking about the culture.
Yeah.
I talked at the trade deadline more than once about selfish play out there.
Yeah.
How did you see that? How did you deal with it?
Well, I think that, again, we always want offensively to make the right basketball play, right? And there's certain guys that are going to have the ball in their hands and are creating for themselves and for others. I think, I think there was certainly some ups and downs in that area, right? I think that it improved a lot as the season went on. I think guys, I think we're always trying to expand roles and give guys a chance to improve and get better, right? And I think that we do leave enough freedom and open space for those guys to try to develop some of their skills, et cetera. But I think, in the end, it was okay. I mean, it was okay. I thought they did make the right plays most of the time. I mean, even last night in the game, there was, I think, 4 or 5 turnovers that were really costly. Like, we don't turn the ball over. We don't turn the ball over. And even some of those were guys trying to get it out to the right play, but for whatever reason, they missed the target a couple times and ended up in costly turnovers. But again, going back to your question, they were trying to get off the ball and get it to the right place.
What do you think this team needs more of, just from a roster perspective, that you didn't have this year?
I don't know yet, Eric. I think I need to take a look at that a little bit. I certainly, we talked about it a little bit last night too. I certainly think that for whatever reason we needed a little more production off the bench, right? And needed to figure out a little bit better roles for some of those guys, or get them, just playing a little bit better individually, right? So that's something we're going to certainly need to look at as well, because again, almost circling back to the Delano question, there's certainly some nights where some of those guys could perform at a high level, right? And stretching that out and the consistency and fitting it in with the other group, or finding a group or whatever, which we're always talking about going forward, I think is one thing.
One more about you and Sai. The conversations you said were open. Did you find yourself disagreeing more this year? And if so, is that
Not really.
act of losing
No,
more than you
not really. I think we again, the discussions are solid and they're open, and he asking me about things and I'm asking him about things, right? And I think that we're heading in the same direction.
When it comes to free agency, historically this franchise has had some challenges, attracting top free agents. What challenges does that present you as a coach when most of your development has to come from players that you draft or players that are undrafted free agents?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that certainly is somewhat of a challenge at times, but I think we've always understood that player development is part of what we're doing, whether we're developing a guy to being an NBA player or a rotational player, or taking a really good player and trying to get him into star status or all-star status or all-league status, whatever, right? I think there's development for every position on that roster. And I would say this, I think that we're going to have to take a hard look at that, because I don't think we could have worked any harder last summer with these guys, man. These guys really worked hard. We had them together a lot. It was a really great job by the staff and everybody and the players, you know, for committing the time and going out there and working that hard and all that kind of stuff. So again, another part of the process of we know we got to be great in development, right? And we got to do it. Bottom line.
At the beginning of the year, you said you were hoping that this team would put a lot more pressure on the rim than last year's team.
Yep.
Do you feel like that happened, or if not, was there maybe not enough outside shooting to help create that pressure, or how do you see that?
Well, I think that again, there's at times it was a really high level. I think there was a game not too long ago we had 90 points in the paint, right? Like that's an astronomical number. So there was some really good moments of it. I think that the ability to drive the basketball, the ability to create space to make driving available. Obviously, to be able to knock it down when you get it to the rim and there's tons of bodies in there and you get it out. Again, all needs to be a little bit better. Yeah.
You guys as an organization have invested a lot in improving shooting with players.
Yeah.
I think that's something you talked about, that it's one
Yeah.
of those things that you can really teach. Do you think this season has maybe changed your view on either investing in players who are better at that to come up with, or is that your ability to teach those things? Has your mindset changed on that?
Well, I think again, it's like there's certainly a bunch of success stories, right? Certainly a bunch of success stories in that for us, and work to be done as well.
What did you think of Christian's rookie season?
Not bad. Not bad. I think showed some promise and some flashes. I think fairly typical of a lot of rookies. Right, there was some, you know, speed of the game, strength issues, you know, just those kind of things. But there's a lot to like about him. He's a really hard worker. He's got a good IQ. He's got some rim protection, right? I think the upcoming off season is really important for him.
Speaking of the culture again, when there's a culture that is so strong, is it difficult to recognize when something might need to change?
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes, but I think that's why we need to take a really good hard look at everything.
Coach,
Yeah.
what's the balance between, you know, this season designing the best play that you see fit on the court versus understanding the limitations or the capabilities of what your team is able to execute?
Well, I think that the biggest thing that you're always trying to do is you're trying to create a system that your guys can be successful in, right? And I think that, you know, that takes some tweaking and moving around and stuff. I always say that the offense evolves all the time. You're doing things and running things that never made your pre-summer or your post-whatever summer planning. You know, you make out, here's what it's going to look like throughout the year, and here's when we're going to add this or take this away or whatever. It always evolves a little differently, and playing it, you know, to the current needs of the team, and with a short term plus a little bit of a long term view as the season's rolling out, right? And then, you know, just getting to a high level of execution. Are we getting to great spacing? Are we running things in the half court with pace? Are we setting good screens? Are we making good reads? Are we getting to the next action? Those kind of things.
You talked about wanting to find more production off the bench. We saw this season Precious and Gary both had good moments with the starting lineup, but then struggled to go back to the bench. Why do you think that was, and sort of how do you get them to find comfort in those roles and be able to produce like they do when they start?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that we've seen over the years as well. You know, I think who else is in there? Norman is a guy that used to have some great moments starting, and then, you know, whatever. And it's being able, and that's the hard part about it, is being able to go out there and perform at a high level in whatever role that it's required from the team at that point, and that just takes a little experience.
Last couple questions, please. We'll have to get to meetings.
I wanted to ask about Fred as well.
Yeah.
On the season, he's been below his average. He's shooting about 39%, 34 from three. Do you feel like it was a case of sort of just like the shot wasn't falling for him, or do you feel like at times it was also shot selection that sort of influenced those numbers?
Well, I just think that, and I probably have to go back and look at this, he just really had a stretch of games where he just almost was in a slump, right? There was a long stretch of games where he was having a bunch of really low shooting, uncharacteristically low shooting nights for him. And then I thought he got out of it, and got back to kind of himself.
Is there a central feeling that this season leaves you with? I know it's very early, but when
Yeah.
you think back across all 83 games, is there a central feeling?
Well, certainly it was a difficult season, right? I think that with what the team accomplished last year and 48 wins, you always want to take a step forward there, and we never really got to take a step forward. And then on the other hand, I said this a few times, there were some challenges, there was quite a few challenges, and I think the guys hung in there and kept they were responsive, they were attentive, they worked hard, they were trying hard, all those things, and they tried to play through a lot of the outside distraction.
Does that last part that you said, does it assure you that your message is still getting through and you're able to communicate with the players?
I feel that it is, yeah.
Is there something specific you'd like to see Scotty really focus on this summer?
Well, I think Scotty's in a continual early stages progress of just continual skill development, right? He's got to get a lot of time in the gym and continue to work on his offensive skills, handling, shooting, finishing, all the things that he can do to, really put pressure on teams as a scorer.
Thank you very much,
Yep.
everybody.
Okay.